February 19, 1945. Iwo Jima, Volcano Islands. The air is thick with smoke and salt. The Pacific wind cuts across the sulfur-stained beaches as the first wave of U.S. Marines crawls out of the landing craft, rifles pressed to their chests, helmets low, sand erupting all around them. Mortar shells crash into the surf like thunderclaps. Black volcanic ash clings to everything: skin, metal, breath. From the towering shadow of Mount Suribachi, the Japanese guns open fire. They've been waiting, silent for hours, letting the Marines think the landing was easy. Now, the entire island explodes. Private First Class John Peters of the 5th Marine Division dives into a shell crater just as a burst of machine gun fire rips through the man beside him. He looks up the slope, barely sees the enemy. The Japanese are invisible, buried deep in a labyrinth of tunnels carved into the rock. The Marines fight ghosts, and every yard of sand feels like a mile. By day 2, the beachhead is a graveyard of burned-out Shermans, twisted Amtraks, and shattered men. The Marines can't move forward. Every time they advance, the Japanese reappear from underground, firing from hidden apertures, then vanishing into the earth again. Major General Harry Schmidt watches from a forward command post, binoculars fixed on the smoking ridges. He knows the infantry is pinned, and the conventional Shermans aren't cutting it. The Japanese bunkers are made of concrete and basalt, some 20 feet thick, with steel doors and air vents hidden in the ground. Nothing short of direct fire or fire itself will reach them. That's when the order comes down: bring in the flamethrower tanks. These are no ordinary Shermans. Modified on Saipan and Guam, they carry the Navy's CB-H-1 flamethrower system in place of their 75mm cannon, a weapon capable of spewing a stream of burning fuel over 150 yards. The men call them Satan tanks, though the official designation is POA-CWS-H-1, Pacific Ocean Area Chemical Warfare Service, Variant 1. As the first flame tanks roll off their landing craft, the Marines stare in awe. The turrets gleam with residue of Pacific salt, the hoses coiled like serpents, the tank hulls blackened from earlier battles. Inside one of them sits Sergeant Bill Curtis, tank commander. His crew has survived Saipan, Tinian, and now faces Iwo Jima, the deadliest of all. Curtis's voice crackles through the intercom: load pressure. Ready the gel. The gunner's reply is calm but tight. Pressure up. Ready on your mark. Ahead, the Japanese bunkers are silent, no movement, no sound. Then, as if the island breathes again, a line of machine gun tracers whips through the air, tearing across the sand and striking the Sherman's glassy plate. The tank rocks but holds firm. Curtis grips the controls. Send it. With a hiss, the flamethrower roars to life. A jet of liquid fire arcs through the air, a stream of orange and black rolling like a wave. The flame slams into the nearest bunker entrance, and for a moment, it's like the earth itself is burning. The tunnel mouths belch smoke and screaming, the fire crawling inside through every vent, every hole, every crevice. Marines on the ground pause, watching in stunned silence. The smell of burning fuel and scorched sulfur fills the air. The Japanese had made Iwo Jima a fortress, but no fortress can withstand fire. Within minutes, other flame tanks follow, moving in formation, methodically clearing the ridges one bunker at a time. Each burst lasts no more than 2 or 3 seconds, but that's enough. The temperature inside the tunnels reaches hundreds of degrees. The oxygen burns away. Silence follows. But victory doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like survival. As dusk falls over the island, Curtis's tank stands motionless, streaked with soot and sand. He watches from the open hatch, staring at the ridge ahead, smoldering, silent, and terrible. The cost of progress on Iwo Jima isn't measured in miles. It's measured in lives and in fire. The Marines push forward, step by step, behind their iron infernos. The black sands glow red in the night. By dawn of the third day, the landscape of Iwo Jima is unrecognizable. The once jagged ridges now look like the surface of another planet, pitted, burned, cratered, and smothered in ash. The ground trembles constantly from the rumble of artillery and the deep, rolling thuds of demolition charges detonating inside the island's veins. For the Marines, the advance has become a ritual of fire and smoke. First, infantry scouts crawl forward to locate firing apertures, tiny dark holes no wider than a helmet. Then the Shermans move in, often just 50 yards away, spewing their liquid flame through every crevice until nothing moves. Only then do the riflemen advance, rifles raised, bayonets fixed, faces hidden behind bandanas against the stench of burning oil and death. Sergeant Bill Curtis's tank, Cobra King II, leads one such assault near the northern slopes of Suribachi. The Marines have been trying for hours to silence a machine gun nest hidden inside a rock face. Every time they get close, the Japanese open up with deadly precision, cutting men down in seconds. Curtis checks his pressure gauge, just under 300 psi. The flamethrower's tank of napalm-thickened fuel sloshes inside, pressurized and ready. "Driver, slow ahead," he says, his voice muffled by the intercom. The driver, Corporal Darnell, grinds the tank forward, treads clanking against the volcanic grit. Outside, Marines press themselves against the ground, motioning for the tank to aim higher. Suddenly, a burst of anti-tank fire slams into the Sherman's side. Sparks fly. Curtis ducks instinctively. The armor holds, but barely. The crew can hear the metallic ping of bullets ricocheting off the hull like hail. "Flame that hole, left ridge, 2 o'clock. Curtis yells. The gunner swings the turret. The nozzle spits a tongue of fire that cuts through the smoke like lightning. The flame arcs upward, then dives straight into the cave mouth. A thunderous whoosh echoes from within. The effect is immediate. The ground shakes as the fuel ignites inside the tunnel system, creating a pressure wave that blasts sand and debris out of nearby vents. Marines cheer, but Curtis doesn't. He's seen what happens inside those tunnels. After each attack, the infantry must clear what's left. They crawl in with flashlights and bayonets, moving through narrow corridors carved from rock, walls slick with soot and melted stone. Sometimes they find nothing but silence, sometimes they find entire Japanese squads who died in place, rifles still clutched in their hands. Private First Class Peters, the same young Marine from the beach, volunteers for one such clearance. He crawls inside behind Sergeant McNally, flashlight trembling. The tunnel smells like gasoline and iron. Every surface is black. They move 10 feet, 20. Then the tunnel opens into a small chamber, its walls glowing faintly red from the heat. In the center lies a heavy machine gun, melted into the ground. Nearby, 3 Japanese soldiers are frozen in position, their silhouettes burned into the rock like shadows from another world. Peters stares, silent. McNally lowers his flashlight and whispers, "They fought to the end." Outside, the flame tanks continue their slow, deliberate sweep northward. Each advance costs fuel, ammunition, and men. The island resists every inch of the way. The Japanese have built a honeycomb fortress, over 11 miles of interconnected tunnels, housing more than 20,000 defenders under General Tadamaki Kuribayashi's command. Kuribayashi himself watches from deep inside his command post, his face calm but grim. He knows his men cannot win, but they can make the Americans pay dearly for every yard. The fire weapons terrify his troops, but they also harden their resolve. Orders go out to ambush the flame tanks at all costs, use magnetic mines, satchel charges, even suicide runs. By mid-afternoon, word spreads across the front, one of the flamethrower Shermans has been destroyed. A Japanese soldier managed to crawl under it and detonate a grenade bundle, blowing open the fuel tanks. The explosion was seen from half a mile away, a pillar of fire that turned night into day. Curtis's crew watches the smoke rise. None of them speak for a long time. Finally, the loader mutters, they'll kill themselves just to take one of us with them. Curtis nods. And we'll keep coming. He doesn't say it with pride, just weary certainty. Night falls again over Iwo Jima. The air is thick with smoke and steam. Somewhere in the dark, the Japanese move unseen, preparing for their next counterattack. The flame tanks sit in a defensive circle, their engines idling, their turrets turning slowly like beasts at rest. Inside Cobra King 2, Curtis closes his eyes but doesn't sleep. The smell of napalm still clings to his skin. In the distance, the volcano glows faintly, lit by the endless war beneath it. The battle is far from over. February 22, 1945. The morning sky over Iwo Jima is the color of steel, the horizon blurred by ash and smoke. The volcano looms like a ghost above the island, Mount Suribachi, where the Marines are locked in a desperate crawl to the summit. To the north, the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions press forward, inch by inch, across terrain that feels alive with hidden death. The Japanese are not beaten. Before dawn, the silence breaks. The ground trembles as explosions rip through the Marine lines, suicide charges bursting against tanks, grenades thrown from hidden pits, machine guns firing from vents that were believed destroyed. Out of the blackened earth, Japanese soldiers rise like phantoms, screaming, bayonets flashing. The Marines meet them with everything they have, rifles, grenades, and, once again, fire. Sergeant Curtis jolts awake inside Cobra King 2 to the sound of impact, metal hammering against the hull. "They're on us," someone yells over the intercom. Through the periscope, Curtis sees movement, dozens of shapes running low through the smoke, closing fast. Some carry satchel charges, others, long poles tipped with mines. "Driver! Reverse, reverse now," he shouts. The tank lurches backward, treads grinding the volcanic gravel. A Marine rifle squad runs alongside, shouting, firing into the haze. One of the attackers throws himself under a neighboring Sherman, a bundle of grenades clutched to his chest. The explosion lifts the tank onto one tread, flips it sideways, and sends a column of fire into the sky. The Marines scatter. Curtis swings the turret. "Burn them out." The gunner squeezes the trigger, and Cobra King 2 belches a torrent of flame that washes over the slope. The orange firestorm engulfs the attackers, consuming everything in seconds. The tank rocks from the heat, paint blistering. The air fills with the roar of burning fuel and the distant cries of men caught between courage and terror. When the fire dies, nothing moves. Only black smoke curls upward from the ground. Outside, Marines move through the aftermath, rifles at the ready, faces blank. Lieutenant Mason, their platoon leader, stands beside the tank, waving the crew to hold position. "You saved the line," he says to Curtis through the open hatch. "Without you, they'd have broken through." Curtis looks past him at the charred ridge. "Sir, we didn't save anything. We just made sure it didn't burn us first." He's not wrong. The Japanese counterattack has cost the Marines dozens of men and several tanks, but the enemy's losses are catastrophic. Yet for every bunker destroyed, another seems to open somewhere else. Kuribayashi's defenders move unseen through the tunnels, surfacing where least expected, striking hard and vanishing again. By midday, the Marines prepare for another push northward, toward the Motoyama airfields, where the Japanese have fortified an underground fortress of steel doors, concrete galleries, and miles of interlocking positions. The plan is brutal but effective: tanks lead, infantry follows, and flamethrowers finish the job. Corporal Darnell drives Cobra King 2 up a slope pocked with shell holes. The volcanic dust is so thick that visibility drops to a few feet. Each time the tank's flamethrower fires, the heat clears the air for a heartbeat, then the smoke rolls back in. From a nearby crater, Private Peters watches as the tanks move forward. "It's like watching dragons crawl through hell," he mutters. His squad leader, McNally, replies flatly, "In hell, they'd be the good guys." The tanks fire again and again, methodically erasing every sign of resistance. Inside the tunnels, the Japanese fight on, choking on fumes, trying to crawl toward the exits. Many never make it. The napalm seeps into the soil, coating walls, suffocating oxygen. But the psychological toll runs both ways. That night, as rain begins to fall, an oily drizzle that turns the black sand into tar, Curtis sits on the edge of his tank, helmet off, staring at the distant flashes of gunfire. His crew sleeps inside, exhausted. Around him, Marines dig in for another night on the line. A chaplain walks by, offering a quiet word to each man. When he reaches Curtis, he simply asks, "How many today?" Curtis doesn't answer. Instead, he says softly, "You can burn an island, Padre, but it doesn't burn the ghosts away." The chaplain nods once, places a hand on the tank's scorched armor, and moves on. Above them, Mount Suribachi glows faintly under the overcast sky. Tomorrow, they'll reach the summit. Tomorrow, the flag will rise. But the battle for the island, the real battle, will still be far from over. Because deeper within Iwo Jima, Kuribayashi's final defenses wait in the dark. And for the flame tanks, the worst is yet to come. February 23, 1945. Iwo Jima, 0700 hours. The rain has stopped, leaving the volcanic sand slick and heavy. Steam rises in pale tendrils from the scorched ground as the Marines move forward through a wasteland of craters and shattered fortifications. Mount Suribachi looms just behind them now, its peak shrouded in mist. Somewhere near the top, a small patrol is climbing toward the summit with a folded flag tucked under one man's arm. But for the men below, the war is still a living nightmare. Sergeant Bill Curtis wipes condensation from his periscope and peers toward the north. Ahead lies the plateau of Motoyama, an expanse of black rock pocked with shell holes and trenches. The second airfield is close, but between the Marines and that open ground lies the densest concentration of Japanese defenses yet encountered. Pressure at 250, the gunner reports from inside Cobra King 2. Fuel at half. Curtis nods. It'll do. Let's burn a path. As the tank lurches forward, the smell of fuel hangs heavy in the air. Every Marine in the line knows the pattern by now: tanks first, then engineers with demolition charges, then infantry to clean up what's left. It's mechanical, methodical, and merciless. To the untrained eye, the island seems lifeless, no movement, no sound. But beneath that crust of volcanic rock lies an invisible city. Japanese tunnels stretch for miles, connected by vertical shafts and hidden exits, housing thousands of soldiers waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside one of those tunnels, Lieutenant Kenji Takahashi kneels in the dim light of a flickering lantern. The air is thick with soot and sweat. His men, 20 survivors from what was once a full platoon, sit silently, rifles resting across their knees. They can hear the rumble of tanks above them, the deep roar of engines and the muffled explosions of fire roaring through nearby tunnels. Takahashi closes his eyes. He has received no new orders from Kuribayashi for 2 days. The radio is gone, lines severed. But the mission hasn't changed: hold the island, no matter the cost. He reaches for a folded flag patch sewn into his tunic and whispers, "If we must die, let it be in the fire, not in the dark." Above, Cobra King 2 moves cautiously across the ridge. The driver steers around a half-collapsed bunker while Marines follow closely behind, rifles ready. A demolition team sets a satchel charge on the nearest cave entrance and dives for cover as it explodes. Dust rains down. When the smoke clears, the hole still stands. It's not just an entrance, it's a shaft leading down, deeper into the mountain. Curtis calls over the radio, "We've got an open tunnel, looks active. Infantry moving in." The first Marine to peer inside is Private Peters. His face is blackened with grime, eyes bloodshot. He shines his flashlight down and freezes. Jesus! Below, the light catches on something that glints like metal. Rows of rifles, crates of ammunition, and movement, shadows shifting in the depths. A burst of gunfire erupts from the darkness. Peters tumbles backward, shouting, "They're still in there." Curtis reacts instantly. "Driver, pivot right. Gunner, mark that hole." The turret swings. The flamethrower nozzle dips low. "Send it." A geyser of fire roars into the opening, the pressure shaking the tank. The flames shoot deep underground, twisting through the tunnel like a living creature. For several seconds, the earth itself seems to breathe, then exhale smoke and sparks. But even that inferno can't reach every corner. Underground, Lieutenant Takahashi and his men feel the heat blast through the corridors. The air becomes unbreathable, their skin prickling with pain. Some collapse. Others charge toward the light, screaming, firing as they run, only to be cut down by waiting Marines. Takahashi stumbles forward, his uniform smoking. He raises his pistol, fires once toward the surface, then disappears into the firestorm that follows. When the flames die, the tunnel collapses. Silence returns. Curtis removes his headset, rubbing his temples. The air smells of burned oil and iron. The Marines around him move quietly, collecting their wounded, res-tacking ammunition. None of them speak about what they've seen. There's no room left for horror, only endurance. Then, a distant cheer rises from behind them. Men turn, confused. On the slope of Suribachi, barely visible through the haze, a small American flag waves atop a pole. It's faint, but unmistakable. The first flag raising on Iwo Jima. Marines on the front lines pause to watch. Some salute. Some simply stare. For a moment, the war seems to hold its breath. Curtis leans out of his hatch, watching the tiny flag ripple against the gray sky. "It's a good sign," the loader says quietly. Curtis doesn't answer. He knows the truth, that the mountain may be taken, but the island still bleeds. The enemy hasn't broken. They've simply gone deeper. As the sun sets behind the smoke, the tanks form up once more. Ahead lies the plateau of Motoyama and beyond it, the cliffs of Kitano Point, Kuribayashi's final redoubt. For the flame tanks of Iwo Jima, the true test is yet to come. February 26, 1945. Northern Iwo Jima. The wind screams across the plateau, carrying the acrid reek of fuel, cordite, and scorched stone. For 8 days, the battle has raged without pause, each sunrise revealing new scars carved into the island. The Marines are exhausted, burned, hollow-eyed. Their uniforms hang in tatters, their boots caked with volcanic mud and ash. But the fight is not done. The last Japanese stronghold lies ahead, a labyrinth of fortified caves and trenches near the Motoyama airfields. Deep beneath that ground, General Kuribayashi commands what remains of his garrison. Barely 3,000 soldiers still breathe, most wounded, all determined to die fighting. On the surface, Sergeant Bill Curtis's Cobra King II rolls forward with the grim patience of a predator. The tank's flamethrower system has been patched together again and again, its paint scorched to dull gray. Inside, the crew sits in silence. The only sound is the hiss of the flamethrower fuel line and the constant grinding of treads over rock. "Pressure's steady," the gunner reports. "She's ready." Curtis nods. "Let's make it count." The Marines ahead mark the next target, a bunker buried into the side of a ravine, steel doors reinforced with concrete and volcanic rock. Every attempt to breach it with explosives has failed. Now, it's up to the flame tanks. Curtis gives the signal. Cobra King II rumbles forward until its turret aligns with the entrance. The gunner fires a 1-second burst. A stream of burning gel splashes across the steel doors, clinging and spreading like molten tar. The flames burn white-hot, melting the hinges. The second burst engulfs the interior. For a moment, the bunker becomes a furnace. Marines watching from cover feel the heat on their faces even from 30 yards away. Then, with a thunderous crack, the structure collapses inward, its walls glowing like embers. "Bunker clear," Curtis radios. His voice is flat, emotionless. But the enemy is still alive elsewhere. From hidden vents, Japanese soldiers fire knee mortars and machine guns, raking the ground around the tanks. One shell lands directly on the back deck of a nearby Sherman. Flames pour from its engine compartment. The crew scrambles out, rolling in the dirt as ammunition cooks off inside. Curtis pivots his turret toward the muzzle flashes and sends another burst of fire into the rocks. The jets of flame slither across the terrain, chasing the invisible enemy through cracks and crevices. Inside the tunnels, Kuribayashi surviving men cough in the choking smoke. The fire eats the air, driving them deeper into their shelters. The general himself sits at a crude wooden desk, maps scattered before him, a revolver at his side. He listens to the rumble of tanks overhead and knows the end has come. Still, he refuses to surrender. His final message, transmitted hours earlier, reads only: "We are defending the island to the last man. Do not expect us to return." Above ground, the Marines keep advancing. The flame tanks move in pairs now, guarding each other against suicide attacks. Every 50 yards, they stop, fire, and wait for infantry to clear the ground. The pattern repeats endlessly: fire, smoke, silence. By evening, the battlefield glows with scattered fires. The air is thick, unbreathable. Black sand crunches underfoot like glass. Marines speak little, their voices hoarse from shouting and smoke. The faces of the flame tank crews are black with soot, their eyes bloodshot from the heat. That night, as the wind shifts, the Japanese launch one final counterattack. Hundreds of soldiers surge out of the tunnels, screaming, carrying rifles, bayonets, and grenades. It is a suicidal charge, a last cry of defiance. The Marines open fire with everything they have: machine guns, artillery, and flame. Cobra King II leads the line, spewing arcs of fire that turn the night into day. The two forces meet in a blur of firelight and shadow, men colliding in smoke and chaos. The battle lasts less than 15 minutes. When the shooting stops, silence rolls across the field like a tide. The ground is littered with burned equipment, twisted metal, and the motionless shapes of those who refuse to surrender. Curtis climbs from his hatch, staring into the darkness. His face glows faintly from the still-burning embers around him. Behind him, a Marine raises a flashlight and whispers, "It's over." Curtis shakes his head slowly. "No. It's finished. But it'll never be over." The Marines secure the plateau by dawn. The surviving Japanese retreat into the northern cliffs for one last stand that will take weeks to root out. But the back of the island is broken. The flame tanks, those slow, smoke-belching beasts, have done their terrible work. Days later, after the guns finally fall silent, the Marines walk the tunnels they once burned. The air is stale, filled with soot and silence. They find the remnants of an army that refused to yield, bodies blackened where they fought, weapons still in their hands. And there, in the ashes, they also find evidence of the defenders' humanity: letters home, photographs, diaries scorched but legible. One entry reads, "We are not afraid of fire. We are afraid of being forgotten." Curtis reads it quietly, folding the paper before placing it back where it was found. Outside, the wind howls across the ridge, scattering ash like snow. He looks toward the sea, the horizon where the next wave of ships already waits, and whispers to no one in particular, "They won't be forgotten." The Battle of Iwo Jima would cost nearly 7,000 American lives and over 20,000 Japanese dead. And though fire had brought victory, it also left a wound no ocean could wash away. On that black island of ash and flame, both sides had seen hell, and built it with their own hands.